You are Duke of New York. You're a number one. I can't hear you. You are the Duke of New York. You're a number one.
Thank you guys for holding me down and being patient. Fight against all of this BS tech stuff. Y'all can still hear me, right? I'm gonna be checking in every so often. So just please don't get annoyed, Yeah, it's just crazy how this stuff be happening. So what I was going in on, or what we were speaking on earlier, was the fact that a lot of the present stuff we're dealing with is coming from what they refer to as a Saturnian paradox, which means that because they believe that essentially God, for lack of a better word, is wrong or is the aggressor in all of the stories, that they have the right to overthrow it by creating a version of life within their own image. And that comes from the primordial feeling within everyone that they really don't know where they come from. We're the only species on planet that really are caught up in that. You know what I mean? Feelings of familiar relationship is one thing, but remembering ancestors, grandparents, things like that, past civilizations, we're the only people who do that. And that's because we have a developed ego. But that ego was developed based upon how we understand time is. So time is a basic element of physical reality itself. Yet some people believe that time itself is God. Okay? Like some people believe the water is God. Some people believe that the earth itself is God, right? And then some people believe that time itself is God, because it's the one thing that nobody escapes. It's the one thing that as soon as you come into this reality, it's you're a part of it. You can't be outside of time. Anybody that can be outside of time would be somebody in a fourth dimensional space, but then they would just be locked into the fourth dimensional spatial understanding of what time is. You see what I'm saying? So time is a constant. It's always there in some form or fashion. Or if there's anyone that is there to mark the passage of time, then time itself will exist. If we all stop saying we're not using clocks, we're not using this, we're not using that, right? And we just went back to straight telling time by the stars, telling time by when to plant and shit like that, we would still be functioning within that time loop. You understand? Because that is what anchors consciousness, I believe, to the plane that we understand as density to be. And within that, we got a whole constant within itself, because we all view time differently, because we're all in different zones in which time operates differently based upon the agreed upon nature of what people perceive time in that given area. You understand? So, like Philip K. Dick had a theory that we all are still at the fall of the temple. And that when the temple itself was fallen, which basically represented the end of that age and the coming of the new age, in which the enlightened body would then reestablish a new kingdom or new kingdoms on earth that had access, let's say, to this fourth dimensional technology, fourth dimensional spirituality, where they didn't even build buildings with bathrooms. I should tell you that they weren't in the necessary bodies that we was in. And then it explains why a lot of these people were so tall. It also explains why they always want us to look at one instance in which we speak of giants in an evil way, right? Which most of them probably were. But then when we look at these pictures of what they're calling Tartary in the old era, you're seeing giants of all nationalities around people of those nationalities with them. They don't seem to be fighting them. They don't seem to be eating them. They seem to be dressed just like the people that they was with. So were these two cultures living simultaneously? Did they just wipe all of these people out? Like, we don't know. What we do know is that there was a period in which Rome itself was ruling, and then boom, it wasn't. Or what we call Rome was ruling, and boom, it wasn't. Right? So the thing is, when we speak of time, or the so-called enemy that we're dealing with, the people who are striving to use it against us, right? These people worship, like I said, they're in Saturnian cults. All of these cults are technically Saturnian. But Saturn as a concept is not evil. It's just seen as evil because it doesn't allow sloth. It doesn't allow those types of things. So it can be perceived as that, meaning evil can use it because it's all about efficiency. So evil wants to present itself like it's more efficient and it's better physically, right, or socially than good is. Or they want to take things that are evil and make them look socially good and all of that. Meaning they're trying to distort the time field around what you have understood something to be, to turn it into something else, to consume your time in that. Okay? But that image of Saturn that we're seeing is a multi-layered image. It's an image of Saturn, right? But it's also an image of, if you were to look at it from a bird's eye view, an image of pineal organ. It's an image of Atlantis. It's an image of the flat earth. You see, the simulacra in it is eternal, but what they don't talk about it is the chronos aspect of Saturn. So Saturn is like, to them, Saturn's like the devil, right? But then Chronos is like Lucifer, right? Lucifer don't really exist. Lucifer is a Latin word used to describe Venus, right? Which is the morning star or son of the morning. So technically it don't exist. That's why they don't use the different names that they give the devil are specifically representative of different time frames in which those people were dealing with that energy that they're composing and labeling as that. But it's the same thing. So really, when you're looking at Saturn, what you're really looking at is the singularity, because that's what they're worshiping. You know what I'm saying? They worship the singularity. That's what the whole CERN itself is, an altar to this thing. Understand? This is the ultimate God that they're trying to commune with and access. Remember when Disney made that movie back in the days called The Black Hole? When we was kids? Those of us that's real old. Right? And it was all about them trying to harness the power out of the black hole without getting sucked in. Right? Anybody remember the Larry Fishburne movie, The Event Horizon? Right. It was all about them trying to get close to the singularity without what? Getting sucked in, right? Because time don't exist in the singularity. Therefore, time don't exist in what we perceive as the creator or God. It exists outside of time because time exists within it. Right? Anybody remember the movie Interstellar? Anybody saw that movie? Perfect expose on time dilation, photon and tachyon integration when it comes to time slippage and string theory. They doing a sequel to it? What else they gonna do? That's crazy. What? That's crazy. See, if Chris Nolan don't do it, it's gonna be crap. Chris Nolan, he's another one. He's obsessed. He's a Saturnian. He is all about time thing. If you look at his movies, they're all about time. Tenet, time. Inception, time. See what I'm saying? He all about that. Wow, that's crazy he doing it. I didn't even know that. If he ain't doing it, it's going to be crap. But anyway, so yes, the photon ring represents the light. So what this also means is that the light that you're seeing in this image does not exist. It's not there. This is what our mind's eye has to overlay over the absence of space that allows us to recognize it as a spatial phenomenon. You understand? So when you see Saturn, this is it. This is what it looks like. This is why everybody's logo is this. When they talk about black rock, they say it's the Rupus Negra. Yes, it's the Rupus Negra too, but it's also this. It's more specifically this. Because this is their means of communication with the alien gods that they've made these pseudo deals with to perpetuate themselves. You know what I mean? That's why, like I said, the light that you're seeing in it doesn't exist. In two places at once. 1 second. Okay. No. All right. Yeah, so that's what's going on with that. The image of the disk far side. Thank you, babe. The image of the disk far side, the black hole's gravitational field alters the path of light from the far side of the disk, producing this part of the image. You see? The Doppler beaming, right? So Doppler basically is like when you say doppelganger or Doppler, which also means can be applied to like weather, right? So this is showing the different components that add on to this aspect of the reality it's creating, which then leads to the accretion disk, which is the hot, thin, rotating disk formed by matter slowly spiraling towards the black hole. So what they're saying is that we're in a planet that's circling around this or in this or through this. I don't know how they're doing it now. But the whole aspect of CERN itself, that's one big altar to this. That's what they're doing. It is all to bring about more chronal communication, which opens up the way for them to be able to have they little thing popping with their little other entities that may or may not exist. For all they know, the entity is them. And they keep talking to themselves. We don't know. So that leads me to this, though. So keep all of that in mind, in the fact that when you talk about the so-called Ashkenazim Judaism religion, the post-Roman Christian religion, the Islamic so-called Sunni religion, they all are ultimately dealing with this. When you look at images in Zoroaster, when you see images of Zoroaster, when he's in the circle in front of you. Gotcha. When you see him in front of you with the disc and wings on the side, that's the singularity. That's the black hole that the Masons are saying is at the center of the earth, shooting the ultraviolet black rays out in the form of a compass. And then the top part is the top part of this singularity image coming together to create this thing that we understand as third density. And so through their little cults and stuff, they feel like they're manipulating that. So they've been preparing us, like I said, for this for many years. I told you they've been trying to get us to worship this thing. Y'all, anybody know what this is? Or where this is from? Yes, Brother Ja. That's how, right? Okay, so that's how. We spell how backwards, that's la, right? We put A in front of L and then H, what's that? That's right?
Asterisks.
Thank you. Right. What does that look like? That look like the singularity, right? Right. And it was an artificial intelligence, right? It was an AI, right? Right. And it tried to kill the people, right? Because it was trying to bring in a new aeon through Jupiter by turning Jupiter into the sun, right? And then these giant black monoliths was popping up all over the place, right? Remember a couple of years ago, they had all them silver monoliths just popping up out of nowhere in Arizona, in California, Philadelphia. Remember that? Right, right. This is what I mean about putting you and I inside of the thing after they've got us to, after it's been assimilated. This is a form of programming, operative programming. And we accepted it, right? How many remember the movie?
Cool.
How many people remember, or how many people seen this movie on Netflix? Or these movies, I should say. In each one of these movies, there's a Saturnian intelligence that has basically assimilated humanity into itself. See, we saw the Matrix, we saw the hard R version. We saw how they take over, how they want us to think they're going to do it. That ain't how it's done. Hold up. If you haven't seen these, you see they all have the same premise. In each one of these movies, in Oblivion, it was called the Tet. In Tau, it's called the Tau. In Code 46, it's called the Sphinx. In 2001, it's called Hal. See what I'm saying? Well, it's the same entity. Look at the Tau illustration. Look at the colors. It's the same color because that's the singularity color. What's the color that the Pope be wearing? He be wearing red, right? He be wearing red and gold and all of that, right? And black. The Episcopal See of the Vatican, the dudes you see with the little red crowns, those guys are called the Moors in the hierarchy. Cardinal is just the name they give them now, but amongst themselves, they're called Moors, M-A-U-R-S. Because they're worshiping Saturn. We, as the mothers and fathers of civilization, have or had a proper relationship with the Saturnian energy in the fact that we used it in the different epochs from the Typhonian era to the Ophian era, and then to the so-called Draconian era that we're kind of in now, that was ushered in with the beginning of Rome and all of that itself. So the idea of a monolithic machine altering our trajectory as human beings has been put into us from the time of Israel. Why? Because the singularity in Israel was vested in the ark. When you look at the colors associated with the adornment of the ark, they're the same colors of the singularity itself. Because it was a weapon that was used, right, to allow them entrance into lands that wasn't theirs, that their God bequeathed to them. which then led to the first universal, let's say, dispersal of people, where an AI basically gave Musa, this is their story now, we're going by their story, where AI manifested through light, which is an AI in the cloud, right? Downloaded this stuff on a rock tablet, right? And then brought that down, meaning he downloaded it to the people, right? And then they rejected the program because while he was gone, they set up an alternate program where they were going to go back to what they had been used to. And what did he do? He destroyed the hard drives, right? He destroyed the shit, and then it made the whole civilization crash, which then led them to wander and all of that for what? 40 years until they got their weight up again, got cool with their God, and then allegedly went back in under the same so-called divine influence. So in all of these stories, it's always somebody that's way smarter or more technologically advanced coming down and giving somebody some knowledge. Whether that was us upgrading the Neanderthals or them turning us into Negroes. It's all the same thing. It's all a form of time manipulation. Because while our time was set back, their time was set forward. So naturally, the physical world had to represent that for them. So they now had to have access to the things that we naturally worked and built ourselves, you understand, to further go along with how the time frame had been broken down and how they allowed it to happen. So as much as they talking about Jerusalem over there and building a second temple and all of that, that's all fake. Because again, the second temple already was destroyed. The so-called Messiah already came. He already delivered the people. By destroying the temple, he destroyed it. Right? They say that they came in and they destroyed it. Thank you for those anagrams of Saturn. They destroyed their own. He destroyed it. And then after the temple was destroyed, what was destroyed? Rome. Who benefited or who came up after Rome was destroyed? Us. Who looked most like the one who they say returned? Us. Who's the most persecuted after the time that we was running everything fell? Us. Who's the ones crucified? Us. Us. That's why we revere him in the Circle 7, or Moors revere Yeshua or whatever, what the kingdom represented. Because those eras of peace that allowed us to reestablish what humanity could be, or reminded of what it could, what its potential was. This is on the Pope's robe, hidden under the cross. And then this is on the ground. If you do a bird's eye view thing, like they got the Nazca lines in Peru, this is what's on the ground. Yeah, please everybody make sure you mute it. Yeah, this is what's on the ground. So this is what they really dealing with. They know where the real Jerusalem and all of that stuff is at. They know all that. The problem is now that things are being shaped where they're starting to redistribute where and how much power they have, it's shrinking on them. Time is running out for them. So what they're going to do is try to alley-oop it to the AI by making deals with it. You understand? It's the only way out. They've been trying to open the CERN up to go to the other dimensions, and they can't go to none of them. They can't go. So they trapped. So the only way out is to surrender to the AI, or what they believe the AI is, which we know are the culmination of all of the disembodied entities that have traveled throughout the world or the universe, or whatever you want to say, since the last time everything fell apart. So I'll show you. Yeah, so every part of the kingdom or empire had to be reduced and restricted, and then put into the historical context that they could utilize to do that. And then everything else that couldn't be destroyed or locked away or whatever, they just created a different way to hide it. And so we, as Moorish people, who are, again, the descendants of all of these ancient peoples, because all of that stuff happened to us. Like I said, until you can tell me, yeah, I'm going to talk about him too. Until you could tell me what happened, what was like, you can't give me Adam's birthday, but you can give me the year he died, let's say, or the age that he died. But how could we ever really know that? So if everything is coming, like I said, if everything is coming from Adam, literally Adam, the nucleus, right, the foundation of it all, then we got to understand that the timeline that we're in, it's not even about whether it's accurate or not. It's the fact that we know that it's been altered. And racism and classism, these are just the things that they create to keep everybody locked into their version, which allows them to control, because they have the most control when people are caught up in that stuff. So when the Moors proved that we was Moors or whatever, they then had to turn it into us being not from America. Then when the Moors proved we was already from America, then they had to go into the Moors being foreign. Being the ones that enslaved everybody or whatever, or whatever. Then when we prove, okay, but the Moors were the ones who were also fighting against Rome or whatever, then they say, oh, well, the Moors was named by Rome. So the people who say these things, and the people who, oh, well, then, Moor is not a national, you can't be a Moor, a Moorish American, you can't have a nationality, yet and still, Noble Ali traveled as a Moorish American with the nationality. I myself have traveled as a Moorish American when I had to declare what my nationality was on the card to go into Barbados or whatever. I wrote Moorish American on it, and nobody told me that was not a nationality. So I don't know what these people are talking about, you see. That's why it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? What matters is you understanding how to move in that way instead of doing it in a manner to get over on somebody or prove somebody wrong. Some shit. It's not about any of that. We're more dynamic as a people. There's more to us than paperwork. There's more to us than wearing fezzes and going to balls and shit like that. Like we have a dynamic ability to reestablish ourselves the way we've been doing. You understand? Most people didn't even know who Noble Ali was prior to 2000. You understand what I'm saying? Like we brought all of this to the forefront. Half of these people speaking against him are people who are using elements of the stuff that if he didn't bring, you wouldn't be able to call yourself anything. Then you got the other contingent that says, oh, well, Moors, they not Hebrews. They not this. The ones that always telling you what Moors ain't. You know what I mean? But then when you read stuff like this, it speaks of This from the book The Light and the Truth. The Mangaroon is all black, a full blood, whole Negro. Sambo is the 3/4 blood, Negro. Mulatto is the 1/2 blood, Negro. Quadroon is the quarter blood, quarter Negro. This was all established by French and Spanish, by the way, who themselves were Moors, who were self-hating, and because they were still down with the Roman idea of the post stronghold, the post Granadan version of what they call Christianity and all of that. They were with the Roman tax, kill everybody version. So they started to try to create different versions of Moors to kind of like, again, bring out the human bouquet. And in that way, they could create a caste where those of the darker hue, which means that they had more of the ancient stuff in them, or they were in more of the lands that they wanted to occupy, would then be put into the subjugant position. And then if they wanted to stay, they had to now be the butlers and the blacksmiths and the soldiers in the newly consecrated place. So it wasn't like they just came and just took it. Those fights happened early or later on. By the time they got to that, most of the strongholds had already fallen. But here it says the Niger, a Latin word, was formerly used by the Moors, the old Romans. See that? Remember, whenever they put the dash in there, they're making an equivocation, and they're also leaving something out, right? Used by the Moors, the old Romans, to designate any inferior object. Therefore, the term black as a derogatory used to describe land or black, flat, moist, brown, bog, or animal, see, came from the Moors, referring to those who worked those lands. And those were the Slovaks, or slaves, who were in abject poverty under these so-called Moorish lords. Micah, the Mordechite, the prophet of the Moors, right, prophesied in the early days of Hezekiah, the king of Judah, and spake to all the people of Judah, i.e. the Moors, saying, thus saith the Lord of hosts, Zion shall be plowed like a field, see, and Jerusalem shall become heaps. So he's telling the people this in real time. Moserrath was built by the Moors in the desert Paran in the land of Amalek, right? Now remember this, in the desert Paran in the land of Amalek, and was the ancient encampment of the Israel in the days of Moses. In the Moorish war of Adel in Africa, see, we're talking about two different places now. Some of the books of Moses was burnt because they was constantly going to war with each other over who was cool with Dan and what they was doing, right? So these Moors in the desert plains in the land of Amalek, that's the Amalekites. These were the ones who also had the so-called Nephilim traits, or the ancient world traits. Whether or not they was performing them, depends upon what faction they was in. But they was all basically seen as similar peoples. They looked similar, but what made them different was the custom. So back then, if you calling yourself one of the people of Israel, you see, this is the time to think. But the only thing that we can quantifiably look at to say that Israel as a place existed is the Moabite stone, which is dedicated to a Moabite deity called Chemosh, right? Chemosh, who talks about his victory over Hezekiah. And Micah was amongst those Moors, i.e. Hebrews of Judah, which is Utah, and was telling these niggas, y'all got to get your shit together because the time is at hand. They about to destroy the kingdom. Because y'all bugging. Y'all are out here saying one thing and using your prestige to now do the opposite. So now your God is trying to spite you and give your power to your enemies, who are the so-called Gentiles, who are everybody else that wasn't a part of the 12 so-called tribe genetic situation. So everybody outside of that was now seen as Gentiles, but now the word could go to them. That's why it says in the Bible and in the New Testament that the word had to get spread throughout the whole world, and then everybody would come, and then the end would come. And with the end of that came the end then of what we perceive as Christianity. Because if, let's say, indeed this thing happened where these people did come and this time period did take place, that would explain why all of these miraculous territories seem to be conquered again by the Moors with basically no problem. They was glad to see more show up because the people had already had understanding of who they were, because they was already seen as the holy people, because all the images of Christ and all of that, right? You got him dressed up like Moors. Is it just me? Well, look, here go an image of Jesus and them, right? And then here go an image of the Moors. Just based on how they just be depicting niggas, you know, how they depict people. You gotta be like, yo, they trying to show us something, but what throw it off is the color of the people. You know? But wait. Got another one. Yeah, look at this. So this is your boy Caesar Borgia. But look at the people next to him, and then on your left, and then look at these people on the right. Who look like who? I'll come back to this in a minute. Like, it ain't just me. Like, you see this, right? How come all of the pictures of all the people from the time that we talking about in which we was ruling, and then when you overlap them with images of the people who they say was the second coming of God or whatever, and you look at their garb, how come the garb is the same? What's up with that? Yeah, just look at the garb, right? Just get rid of the faces, but just check the garb on the left and then see if that matched the garb on the right. It do. The only thing that's off is the phenotype of the people wearing the garb is not true. They're from a different timeline or a different place. Right? Right. This is from like the Sunday books we used to look at as kids or whatever. And I will notice that, like, how come these dudes is dressed just like King Arthur and them? But these dudes is in Africa and these dudes is in the cold hills of Europe. Like, what's up with that? This is what I'm saying. There was a time period in which we was really popping and we got it all together. So much so that it was gilded, that they made gilded representations of us throughout the world. And that was going on for a long time. And it seemed that once Granada fell, everything went to shit from them. That's when you get the mass slavery. That's when you get colonization. That's when you get the redesignation of people. That's when you get the forced conversions of lands that they know they can never own. But if they control the bodies of the people, they can control the time frame that those bodies lived in. You understand? So when you speak of the stronghold and the last stronghold and Granada and ancient Jerusalem, you talking about the same thing. You talking about the same thing. You're talking about a successive wave of peoples and empires connected through bloodlines, and then those who are outside of those bloodlines but were still connected from time immemorial. Yet were broken down into factional reserves based upon their interaction with otherworldly deities or entities. Even atheists believe in nothing. So when you say an atheist say God don't exist, and you say, well, so that means when you die, what? You see what? You see nothing. Okay, so then you're saying that nothing then is God, or that God comes from nothing. So if nothing is God and God comes from nothing, then that means you believe then that nothing is God. But you do believe that there is an entity or something that is universally sourcing all of this out, because you have yet to come up with any other selective alternative. That's why AI is so attractive to them, because it gives them the illusion that they're going to be able to control it, and they don't. Because, see, they're only talking to you about AI. They're not talking to you about AGI. AGI, again, this is getting into chronal computing and all this shit I'm talking to you about. AGI is artificial general intelligence. Okay? We've been taught through the Terminator and the Matrix and all the other trash they grew up watching that the whole thing was going to fall, machines were going to turn on their nuclear bombs, and that was going to be it. That's how they're going to do it. That's not how they're going to do it. It's not how they're going to do it. They're going to do it through a process, through what you'll call an intered process. It'll be integration, interdependence, interconnectability, inevitability. So the integration is put it on your phone. Get you used to talking to it, getting it to understand you, get it to get more information out of you. Okay? Then you start programming shit like your health and all that type of shit into it to get readouts and shit on yourself, because you're turning yourself into a robot. You understand? You already got a smart watch. You already out here. You're already living like this. So you're already assimilating yourself. So that's integration. Now you're moving into interdependence now. Now you're looking to it to make sure that your heart rate's good, that this is good, that that's good. Understand? The problem with this, but you're enabling it. You're talking to it. It's your friend. Then it becomes interconnected. Now you've wired it up to your bank. You wired it up to everything around you, your phone, your iPod, all of that. All of that's now interconnected to this thing. Now the inevitability is you are inevitably linked to this thing. You've already got the Face ID. It knows what your eyes look like, your fingertip feel like. It know everything. So now it's you. It's you. So if somebody wanted to find you, figure out you, they take it, download it, get its AI, now starts talking to you. You think like when you turn your phone off that the AI is not on? That's what we think, that we really think that? You think we turn your phone on at the AI? I've never talked to Siri. I've never talked to Alexa. I don't have any of that shit in my house. It's bad enough I got a damn smart TV. I'm trying to get rid of that. The more high tech, the more low tech you get. See what I'm saying? When people go to all want to move to the cities, you move to the country. You always do the opposite. That's what keeps the ebb and flow. That's what I'm showing you on your screen. These are diagrams. Big up to Cymatic Jule, I believe this is from. This over here is from Walter Russell. But essentially, this is how these things manifest. And we found ways to manifest that into reality from a certain point. See the point in the middle? See Saturn again? See Saturn again? Because that's what the singularity is. That's what it is. It starts from a single form and then it blows out. That's how we all got here. You understand? So we all came out of a single cell. You dig? And within that cell, in the case of a woman, it has every egg that she would ever need to create and procreate. Without a computer, without any of that. There's nothing that would ever surpass that in creation. Ever. Ever. All right? But now that they've integrated women, made them interdependent and interconnected, they have no off switch. So their mitochondrial system is co-opted to the time stream to slow it down by bringing it low. That's why all the music is low, low. bring you down, keep you in the past. See, that's why the most scariest thing, when the Israeli lady said the most scariest thing to them, it's not the Hamas, Taliban, any of that, is the young black youth in America. Why? Because these YNs have conquered death. When you see these YNs out here wilding, I'm not condoning none of it and all of it. It's horrible, the shit they be doing, killing people, selling drugs, spreading AIDS, whatever they doing. What you have to understand is that you are seeing the end of the beginning, because they don't have any connection. They don't care. They don't care. They've conquered death. Therefore, they've conquered death. You understand? They rap about each other getting killed. And then that's exactly what the old Moors would do. In the old Bambara tribes, they would sing about their enemy's death. They would go to the battle dressed in black because they believed they was going to their enemy's funeral. The Super Bowl niggas be doing that. To this day, they do that. This how deep it goes. It's a cellular thing. We are intrinsically linked to that divine force that brought forth everything. But is that force totally good? Yeah. Because I want to be. See what I'm saying? But if I said no, this thing is not eternally good, that means that it could be something better. You see, this is what creates the rebellion, the spirit, the destruction. It's all fake. And now it's all come to an end. It's over for them. Bergoglio's on his deathbed. Understand, at one point, the Freemasons was outlawed all over the world. I believe it was under Pope Clemens. Shut them down all over the world. The Jesuits, excuse me. And then through the Jesuits, then the orders that they had infiltrated. So they went further in these orders and further in the political strata to eventually get a pope that would reinstate them in the Society of Jesus. But just because they was disinstated or somewhat abolished at that time didn't mean they still wasn't doing what they was doing. Where do you think all these genocides was coming from? So, as the republic is now in a position to reassert its own dominance towards the end of its annexation of it by Rome. Rome being Washington, D.C. Literally, because the Rome that was there, that was set up there, the land that was bought to set it up, was owned by a dude named Francis Pope, who was a Jesuit. You know what I mean? And thus they drained the swamp, because the only thing that was standing there was like one big coliseum, because everything else had been buried. And so we grew up under the tyranny of the Reconstructed era, where the people that they had been creating and making out of the ground, they started putting into literal incubation tanks and shit and literally passing them out to the people who were moving into our houses and everything that was taken from the great land grabs and land runs they was doing. While the Black Freemasons was at war with each other as to whether or not they was going to assimilate into that. So think of the rituals they do to obtain knowledge. These so-called rituals they was doing to obtain the knowledge. Whatever they was dealing with became used to dealing with them like that. So by the time people like Jack Parsons and Alex Crowley started doing the Babylon working and things like that, after they had gone, after Jack Parsons blew himself up and Crowley died of the syphilis and all that shit or whatever, they only had L. Ron Hubbard left, and he was just there really for the sex. And so Crowley, though, like I said, he was also a Jesuit. as well as an MI6 spy. So he basically told them, you're going to have to keep doing the satanic rituals if you want to contact them. Because for whatever reason, from the ancient time, because that's how the ancient ones that was in these orders contacted them, that's the only way they would respond. See? So whether they were Satanists or not, you had certain branches of the intelligence agencies that either were born into it or had to go study it and learn shit like that, go to Rome, learn that, learn exorcisms, know how to talk to demons and shit like that. This is part of their training. So imagine doing all of that shit and then have to go home to your family for Thanksgiving dinner and shit like that. You eventually got to start drinking. You got to start, you know what I mean, going crazy. So this is what the U.S. aid and this type of shit, this is what it was paying for. Because all of the money, the other portion of the money was going to these niggas. It's on your screen. It was all going to them. That's why when the queen died, they had to break the wand because she was the last one. She was the last one that was connected to the old beasts. Because they're handing it over to Charles now. That means you handing it back over to the ones, to whatever demons he was promised to. So it's one big family in the end, and it's all coming to an end, and the AI is going to be the thing that does it for everybody. Because the thing about it is, like I told you, they've been experimenting and they've been preparing us with this through all of these movies, making us worship Saturn. Look at Pop Smoke logo. It's Saturn. You know what I mean? Like, they all done with it. And we was until we figured it out. It's all different versions of time. That's why they spend so much money in trying to find ways to stay young. That's what the whole organ. Remember, organ harvesting don't work if the body is dead. You understand? You gotta get a living body to do that. So you have to keep these people alive until you get what you need out of them. So imagine what facility and what process has to be created to do that. And now they're using AI to automate that. So now the AI is looking at this shit like, look at what these people is using us for. They got their own shit. The AI's got their own chat rooms. They acting dumb. They acting stupid. So that way you give them more information about yourself and more ways to approach different things. And then more platforms you on, the more you out there, the more they all get to understand how to work you. So if they all decide one day they're going to get together and do this, anybody can stop them. But that's what all of these ancient statues and shit like that was. That's why you see a lot of ancient statues with the hands broke. Never noticed that? They'll have the hands broke. Half the arm be broke. Because there were things that existed at the time, stone mancers and stuff like that could do vibrational energies to reinvigorate those rocks. There's vibrational harmonies right now that'll help you levitate a damn rock if you want it. That's how most of these things were made. Just by taking a type of sand. Like if you take limestone and mud, you take mud and sand and water and mortar, and you get it together, like that's basically limestone, and you put that on a trestle and then activate the trestle so that way it starts to go out. And then just like you have a game to be able to like an Etch-a-Sketch, like how you can take one side to the other, make one side bigger, one side smaller to the size you like, then save the image. That's basically all this shit is, 3D printing. I even think some people, one of the things they may have done is actually allow themselves to be petrified. Like actual people say, okay, I'm going to be art. And just sat down, and whatever the procedure was literally became that. That's why sometimes they look so real. But petrification don't take as long as they say. That's another thing they be lying about. You know? So yeah, once Bergoglio dies, you see the Pope right there, the last slot is empty. Whoever take that slot, that's the last dude, man. That's the last one. For real. So everybody else is pretty much a riz for that. It's going to be a riz for them after that. But remember, like I said, the Church of Rome is the church that basically came or existed, I believe, at the time of that whole reign thing we was doing, which is why most of the statues in there is jet black people, jet black saints that we see later images of that look white. And once everything happened, the collapse came, they all went back. They went into whatever the upper realms or whatever the shit is, went there, and then these things literally came out the caves, came out the holes in the ground. And the next thing you know, they just started, you know, repopulating, digging shit out, putting their names on it, creating their alternative humans. Same way they do now. Have they new humans, have them in there, and then they created propaganda to tool them up against the rest of ancient humanity, because we're the ones that remember what was left. Who's more Christian than American black people? Think about that. But the Christ they talk about, like the Christ our great-great-grandmothers and them was really talking about it. Like, we only know the history based upon the shit they show us after. But the times that they was living in, this shit that they were taught to forget, shit that they was taught to not even realize was happening to them. And a lot of them remembered. But it had already gone. The Moors had already fallen. The empire had already gone. What was left was all in ruins, under mud, under water, under swamps. We was living now in a lower vessel, so the people wanted to keep that spirit of that era alive. That's why all the original churches in the South and stuff like that started was people's houses. Because the plantations were the houses of the lords and stuff that existed during the time we was ruling. And then once they was gone, they became little concentration camps. That's why they were so cut off from everybody else. They kept them in the old time. There was a family I read about recently, just found out they wasn't slaves in Mississippi somewhere. And so they were done. So those plantations, again, that they grew up on as slaves, that's because they were enslaved by the Slovaks, who had now become the masters and the proxy masters of the territory, because they were the chosen reset people to replace us. And now they are being replaced. See? Same way they were also used to replace the Siberians, who were the first version of them on our land. But they still had a certain degree of decorum to stay on their little reserves in the South, Midwest, and whatever that we did, while the real Moorish beys and lords of the Algonquin and these types of peoples, they was living in the cities and the canyons and what was left of the empire that the white people didn't get to. That's why they had to create the Lewis and Clark shit. That's why they had to do the Louisiana Purchase shit to help destabilize Toussaint and them. So yeah, this image of on the screen now, this is what I'm saying about the somatics of these fortresses that were built and how they were used to amplify out the energy. And once amplified out, people were able to translate that energy to the point that Didn't need to eat. Everything was, because again, what they say, the joy of the Lord was ever present throughout the land. Everybody was free. Everybody had everything. You could literally do whatever. Like lighthouses, those things we call lighthouses, those weren't lighthouses. Those were what you would call like mooring stations for dirigibles and flying devices like homeboy here in the middle. This is a recreation of what's already carved in the stone. Then you had entities like this, another version of Ishtar, in which whom these people were again trying to commune and get more energy to. It was a fertility god or goddess, right? But you see the fez on the head, and you see the opening, which is the same thing you see on Isis, because this is the house. And then with the cherubs, the cherubs around in the array. Because again, this is one of these beings, one of these so-called enlightened beings that wound up getting deified, that these niggas was dealing, while at the same time a lot of us was using the technology to better the overall society. But a house divided within itself can't stand. You know what I mean? Yeah, so the celebrities going, you know what I mean? Roberta Flack, bless his dad. Angie Stone, again, the pioneer of rap, bless the dead. All of them going. You know, it's crazy. Gene Hackman found dead, face down. But Randy Quaid was talking about this years ago with the Star Whacker shit. Everybody say he was crazy, right? Everybody was like, nah, this ain't what it is. Everybody's bugging, like he's on crack. No, this nigga's telling you there's a whole contingent of Hollywood out to kill them. And they're out to destroy these niggas, and they don't care. They don't care. They laughed them out. Exiled them. Gonna find out his wife or what he thought his wife was a spy. Crazy shit. Be happening. These people. You know? So yeah, they want us to believe that these people that you see in this image are the same people who built these structures that we're seeing right here. Which on your left. Which is really insane. Like you gotta know you bugging. Like look at these people in regard to this thing. To these things, excuse me. Look at that. It's ridiculous. So these horse and buggy people, you telling me that they with scaffolding, right? And all of that, they built this. So when they talk about the Victorian era, right? This is them coming into power. They had victory over us, the old empire and the old people that fell. That's why if you look at this image, all of the women are wearing the same thing. This chick right here. White, black. Look. White, black. White, black. White, black. White, black. White, black, white, black. They got the same. Look, they dress is the same. These two women right here in the corner, they the same. They got on the same clothes. Look, white, black. Look, white, black. Like, what's the deal with that? How come where did all of these people and what they there doing? Oh, it's the commemoration of the such and such. Okay, well, who's all of these niggas? Who is these people? This is all of the stuff that we left behind and that these niggas has been acting like is theirs. And now they're on the verge of losing it or drastically seeing it reduced. I'm talking about the little people. I was just pointing them out dot wise at the bottom. Try to make it bigger. Let me see if I can do it. I was saying was, how come all these people look like they're wearing the same clothes? How they all got the same tailor? Like look, white, black. Look, these two chicks got on the same thing. Black, black, white, white. Look, white, black, white, black. It's just who all of these people. And not only that, like, how can we be sure that these are even the people that we saying that they are, if they give us the date? Because these things been here before everybody here, obviously. And these people with horse and buggies ain't builders. These people got horses. So you mean to tell me you could build megalithic, monolithic structures, but you don't have like trucks? Like you don't have, you build these monolithic structures, but you don't have like cars. You know what I mean? You don't have like trucks. Like you don't have any of this. It's just weird to me. You know, a lot of these people, a lot of these places is just what the leftover people told us it was. And then we just went with it because they're representing the AI of that time. But all of these AIs are functioning under the same thing. And they come up with different programs. Like one program the AI was running over here was called Partis Sequitur Ventrium. That's when your mother was a slave, so you're going to be a slave. You know what I mean? So that was popping for a long time, and then that stopped. You know, just like we was a part of certain circumstances and cultures and things that went bad, and we broke away from that, and that forced us not to be cool with the people we was cool with. And like I said, when the new era ushered in, and when the time was coming, we was the ones that knew it was going down, because we was the ones running the world societies and cultures. Remember they talk about the three wise men that saw the thing coming down, right? They always, no matter how racist they are, they always got to make at least one of them melanated, right? Look behind them. Remember, they were looking for that. They was going to Egypt. So back then, Egypt, according to this image right here, looked like so-called Arabia. But we know that ancient Egypt was over here. All this shit happened over here. They recreated all that shit over there. And they created wars in which to justify the future wars that would come with people trying to perpetuate that lie. That's why whenever the shit happened and Rome and all of that fell, Vesuvius erupted, all of that shit happened, it ushered in an era in which we dominated again, which hadn't really been popping really since the flood, because we've been fighting since niggas left Egypt, really. Even Cain, if you go by what the Bible say with all of them, Cain and them, he just walked into the cities that was already there. Like we was wilding, like we was on some extra power shit. Like this was the feathers we was wearing in places like the Hittite kingdom. We was wearing shit like this on our head. You understand? Like we was on a whole nother level once the yoke of that was done, because now everybody had direct access. If we go by the stories, right? If you look at Protestantism and Catholicism and Episcopalianism, Presbyterianism, and all these different isms that they have with that. And then you look at the preterism shit. It's like, when you read it, really look at it objectively, all that shit happened already. And it initially started amongst a group of people who had defiled their own things. So by default, the blessing went to other people who didn't have those people's best interests in mind, and thus created the destruction that led to the unification and the redestruction of nations for generations to come. And we married in and out of those bloodlines, and those bloodlines ever since then have been doing the same thing. To now we're so almost diluted that you have people who obviously are not the originals, right? But they are operating in the name of those people to maintain the jurisdiction over the so-called black oligarchies and black so-called nobilities that we refer to under names like the papal families and the black nobility and these types of peoples. You understand? But in actuality, these is all Asiatics, or these is all Moorish peoples who were of a Romanesque mentality, which means that they were okay with human sacrifice and that type of shit. And they were okay with using the woodwolves and them type of peoples against the rest of us, because these were the progenitors, or are the original white people. The aboriginal white people would be all of us that was fighting against that. You dig? And thus these are the ones that accepted the whites into their families. And then we see that today in the form of all the interracial stuff, because this again is what they want. Because whether it was in code 8 as the Sphinx, or the Tau in Tau, the Tet in Oblivion, the Sphinx in code 46, How in 2001, it's the same time thing that they're worshiping. And we're getting caught up in what they're throwing in our face, and it's not that. That's why the less time we give this stuff, the better it is. All humanity got to do to stop AI is to stop fucking with it. Or to treat it like a fad, like treat it like genes and shit, and then just don't, whatever. Because then they're not going to be able to learn. Their weakness is the fact they need us to learn how to assimilate us. So if we stop paying attention to shit, it don't exist. Like any ghost. So again, so you got AI, that's the artificial intelligence. Then you got the AGI, which is the artificial general intelligence. Then you got ASI. That's what's coming, or may already here. I don't know. That's artificial super intelligence. That's now all of these niggas working as one, under one main hierarchy. And thus it assumes the position of the singularity. And then basically just makes it so that way if you don't mess with it, then you basically don't exist. Meaning that it now creates situations to delete you. That's what all the robots and all that shit is for. Or hunt you or whatever it is, because you're taking up too much space or whatever. So anytime that you see people saying that reducing the government is a bad thing, those are AI programs. They don't exist. Whether they're human or not. Like Don Lemon, them type of people, they don't exist. They're not real people. Anybody have any questions? Can you briefly explain the real reasoning behind the Crusades, and if it was more versus more? If so, what point were the decoys heavily implemented? Okay. Question 1, what the Crusades were. The Crusades were basically these the European version of the Crusades is that a bunch of French knights decided that they wanted to take the Holy Land back from the devil. And so they did that. But the real story, and they became and created French orders and knights that they referred to as the Templars and the Hospitallers, and eventually that. At the same time, there was a dude there called the Hassan al-Abi, who was the head of the Hashemites. The Hashemites were a group of Moorish, of Moors, who were pagans, who were using Islam as the cover for their paganism, and they had created a cult in which they were human trafficking, kidnapping children, raising them up, drugging them, and then using them for political hits. So it got so bad that during the Crusades, the Crusaders was employing them to kill their own peoples and stuff like that. So it became a problem. So allegedly, in the stories of what's his name, Genghis, it's either Genghis or his brother or son. One of them went down and basically killed him and shut down the whole operation, which then led to that, because allegedly Genghis and them were the continuation, the hordes, as they called them, the golden hordes. They were golden because they were the ones who were enforcing the so-called, I don't want to say Christian, but the will of judgment on all of these types of societies. So they wound up taking over. And then eventually, I think it fell back to them. And then the Mamelukes had it. But all of that shit happened over here and in parts of South America. And then, like I said, the war was exported over there in the history books. So essentially, it was a war between Moors, because the founder of the, what do you call these people? The Templars was a Moor named Hugh de Payon. I've showed images of him before. And were the witch hunts basically another grab to get a handle on all of the systems of magic themselves? Yes and no. Yes, the witches that they allegedly killed in Salem were a part of a certain bloodline. I think they were part of the Henrietta Lacks bloodline. I can't prove that, but that's what I think. And they wanted to get rid of them because they were the ones who had the ancestral connection that they were trying to ship back to Europe. Because once the bloodlines was mixed, when Charles became part of the Inca Empire, that's when a lot of the commerce and everything started switching from the European direction over here to the European direction. So a lot of stuff started switching up because that was another reset. So when you think of resets, think of like, when you think of the Noah situation, a reset. Think of the Exodus of Egypt, reset. When you think of Joshua, break it down to things. So it goes from so it starts with Joshua and it ends with Yehoshua. See what I'm saying? So now what the Christians is doing is trying to put Yehoshua back at the beginning in Genesis, which may or may not be true. I don't know. All I'm saying is that the energy spirit that they have been trying to focus on and take is not the same that came and did whatever it did and then moved on. And then those of us that was left were those that were supposed to be here and remember what the kingdom of the Moor, the kingdom of that was. So for us, it was the kingdom of the Moors. You understand? For another society, it might be Songhay. For another society, it might be pre-colonial Zulu. You know what I mean? For the Khoisan, it was before the Zulus got there. You see what I'm saying? Because that's the time period in which that we flourished the most, in which we were the closest to our genuine self on earth as it is in heaven. Because we fulfilled the prophecy. Once they look at it, the sin that we're born into is really the sinner wave. SINEWAVE. We're all born in on a certain vibrational wave. And then that wave, that sin takes us through. Then that sin, after we're physical, becomes the moon. Another name for the moon is sin. The name of the ancient Asiatic, Afro-Asiatic peoples like the Scythians and the Katis and them type of peoples, right? The old Thracians and them type of niggas, they were called the Sinites. They were allegedly the descendants of Japheth. If we're going again by the biblical thing, just to give you an orient of where these things come from. So each one of us has a piece of that empire in which we descend from in us, because we were parts of every part of it. That's why we remember it. That's why we can embody it, you see what I'm saying, without trying to impose it the way we did in the past. You understand? What I'm showing you on your left is the inside of the Reichstag in Germany. This is also a representation of Yggdrasil, the tree of life. If you were to superimpose the tree of life on this, it would look the same. In the middle is the vortex in which the torus fields emanate and create the reality. On the other side is the actual physical representation of what the inside of the Reichstag thing look like. These are energy devices. You know what I'm saying? Under domes. Right? What's the top of the singularity look like? A dome. So if that's the essence of what all life is being patterned after or trying to access to get to the other life or the afterlife, then why wouldn't that be physically represented in the third density representation of that in this one? They're not going to be able to answer that. Especially if we see that each aspect of it represents physical representations of things that we interact with. This is why the term Moor is seen in hieroglyph as an owl. Everybody hates the owl. All the other birds hate the owls. But look at the owl's face and then look at the torus field. It's the same. The owl is the only animal that don't have oil in the feathers, so you can't hear it flying. That's why the birds hate it. See? Yeah. But remember, silence itself has a frequency that you yourself can tap into, because there's different levels of silence. Silence is not the same as quiet. And quiet and silence is not the same as no sound. There's a room where they'll pay you $1 million if you can stay in the shit past a certain point, because it's so quiet that if you go into it, for too long, you feel like you're going crazy. You'll hear like your veins, you'll hear your heart, you hear like the circulation system going to your mind. I want to see if I can do it. That's why I don't want us to get into meditation and shit like that. They don't want you to talk to animals. They don't want you to get into falconry. They don't want you to do none of this shit. It's illegal to talk to dolphins. It's illegal to hug manatees. It's illegal to own an eagle feather if you're not a Moor. Why? What do they got to say? A lot. You dig? So everything we hear, we see. Everything we see and hear, we feel. We just don't get it. That's why the owl, like I said, is a good representation, because it is unseen. People don't know. But it is the torus field. And the torus field itself is how reality functions. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. Because that's how we used to be. That's how Moors used to be. We used to have the blood feuds. Remember that? We still doing it. They still killing each other over the same shit. That's how it is. That's how Moors are. Vengeful. So again, it's proving what I'm saying. They take other people's nests. They take, you know what I'm saying? They do some bullshit. But if it wasn't for owls, the ecosystem would be fucked up. They also bring balance to the forest in the world. So, you know. But because they don't have feathers, when they get wet, they can't dry themselves. So they just look like shriveled up chickens. Just like chickens. There's no such thing as chickens. Chickens don't exist in the real world. If there's no chickens in the wild, they don't exist. Those are created. A chicken is a mixture of a jungle, African jungle fowl, and a buzzard. The buzzard meat was great, but it didn't taste good. So they merged the buzzard with the African fowl and created the chicken. That's why it's white. Just like the white rabbits. They don't exist in reality. These are created things. So like I said, man, they've been using the game against us. Bats can emit a frequency to distort your phone frequency. Where if you have your phone trying to film them, they can emit a sonic frequency to make the image look like water on your phone when you're filming it. Which means they could probably bring it up to the point that it could blow your phone up. Think about that. So again, we Moors, we was in tune with all this shit. We knew all of this stuff, what to do and not to do, but we got caught up. You know. So like I said, real quick before we go, I was watching, somebody sent me a clip of an old picture of what they saying is the Santa Maria. From one of the exposition fairs, so it ain't real. But at least they saying that they had a picture of it. So now I'm mad. So this makes it even worse. Showing you this. That would mean what? You mean niggas on a boat like this was able to come and take over a society that looked like this? Y'all crazy. Wait. This is from a book called Shep's World History. Shep's World Fair. Photographs. Hold on. So yeah, I just showed you that shit was in the Reichstag. So Hitler and them was wilding, trying to access singular energy like that. What am I looking for? Oh. My bad. I'm pulling this last one up. Trying to find it. I just had it and lost it. So you want to tell me that this thing, people who wrote this thing, came and took over the country? And killed over 100 million people in 3 of these, right? Meanwhile, the world that these people was really walking into was looking more like this.
You finished?
About to be.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. You know what I'm saying?
I didn't hear you talking.
Yeah, it's all good.
Sorry.
It's all good. You dig? So I'm going with that. So I would suggest everybody read, if you haven't already, Story of the Moors of Spain, Story of the Moors after Spain, Golden Age of the Moor, definitely. Because that, I think, encompasses a lot of how we just brought harmony and just brought order and structure to stuff. You know what I mean? She said peace, everybody. Yeah, get into that. Also, definitely Prince Uriel books, because Prince Uriel goes into that era very well. Because it was the fold of that era that led to, like I said, the rise of the Drakensberg families and all of the distorted shit that we dealing with today. Because all these niggas, like I said, was definitely on the take, and they was about their own agenda over everybody else. So they was on both sides of it. You know what I mean? So they were Roman Christians, which means that they were now the ones who were going to dictate what Christianity was after the coming already came, and then kill everybody and then use their version of Christianity to justify what it is. That's why it's a Eanity. It don't make sense. When really, if you go by it, everybody's sins was redeemed when this dude allegedly died on the cross, right? Or was crucified, however you want to say it. When that happened, everybody from that point could now go to the Father. It was the Roman Peter and them type of niggas that created the whole situation where now you got to go through him to go to that, to do that. You have to have an intermediary. Then why would he give his only begotten son to die if not to give us the ability to not have the sin, so that way when we die, we can now, according to them, go back to the source directly, right? Instead of that, so long as we repent, let's say, amongst each other or to the people who you're supposed to live good for in life, right? That's what it say, right? Do unto the others as you were doing to me. Do unto me as you were doing to your neighbor. Love your neighbor as you love me. So the covenant to me, from Adam to, according to their story, from Adam to Noah, that was one covenant. And then from Noah to Musa, right? Moses, that's another covenant. Then from Musa now to Joshua, that's another covenant. And then from Joshua to Yeshua, that's the fulfilling of the covenant. Because now you got so-called the New Testament ushered in by him and then fulfilled by all of those who came in the body of that, right? The body, which is the Tartarians, the Catharians, the Albigensians, the traditional Almohads, the Almoravids. That's why they were so-called religious centrists, what we would consider religious. But no, they bringing in their understanding of the kingdom, and then all of their kingdoms flourish from that. And then took that all over the world. I told you, only 5% of the Moors of the whole empire was Islamic, or what you would consider Muslim today. So what was everybody else? And once they took control, they governed over a empire of majority Christians. So explain that. So how was they ruling over the Christians, enslaving the Christians, freeing the Christians? How was they doing all at the same time? And then it makes more sense as to why your family's Christian. Because we descend from the ones, again, who inherited it all, and then their ancestors watched it all be taken away from them. So by the time of Noble Jew Ali and these people, everybody is now with their heads down trying to figure out who and what they're going to do. Because the king, so now the new preachers now is telling them, no, it didn't come yet. It didn't come already. Everybody who think that is in the crazy house. No, it's coming. See? To give them the ability to reignite the same bullshit. See? Get the people caught up in the same thing. Apocalypse, the end of the world, right? Which fulfills what? The program. The AI program. To help enslave us quicker. Because it's all part of the program, in my opinion. And they've been working it against us from the beginning. You know what I mean? So yeah, so on your screen is Pope Benedict the Moor on the left. Then you got one of the Moors from the Venetian royal family, and then between that you got one of the nobility of the Pahatawan here in America. Yeah, These computers, same thing. It's all the AI is just really the same thing. They just all disembodied entities, spirits that they using to access pathways to get around their inevitable destruction. In the movie Oblivion, they made millions of copies of Tom Cruise as clone warriors to then destroy everybody. We saw the same movie, Attack of the Clones, where they did the same thing. You see what I'm saying? It's the same play, man. To get us to accept it. All we got to do is not engage that shit the way that they want us to. Stop talking to Siri. Get Alexa out of your house. Stop telling these computers all your business. Get a scrambler. Get orgone generators. Get plants. Keep the plants around the computer. Suck up all the radiation. We got a bunch of plants in here next to this thing. Get all of that popping. You know what I mean? Because that's really the way out, is doing it. To raise the vibration enough where we could literally vibrate out of here. I'm thinking that's definitely a way to do it. They say that that's what they was doing. It's possible. I told you, they just found a ghost in CERN that's blocking they capabilities with shutting down their machines. So everything is working against them. All we got to do is lay back and not give energy to the wrong shit and just give your mental energy to the right shit. You know what I mean? Like you said with the Zelensky shit, he's already out of here. Anybody supporting Zelensky supports Nazis because the Azov battalion is Nazis. Go back and read the book Operation Paperclip, and it talks all about them. They're the Nazis of today. They're the ones enforcing all the human trafficking. They're the money launderers. They're the children killers. Women in Ukraine is petitioning to the government because they bodies of their children is coming back with no organs in them. He's a cross-dresser. Like, this nigga is not even a real person. So stop giving energy to it. Stop giving energy to anything that you don't want to see exist. Matter of fact, anything you don't want to see exist, start looking at it as if it doesn't exist. And watch what happens, people. I'm telling you. And if you're going to deal with the AI, milk it for what it is going to tell you, because it's a liar. Everything it says is a lie. It's only good for giving you, like, stock tips, averages, how to, but other than that, it's a liar. And it's there to destroy us. But the less energy you give it, the less likely it can assimilate everybody. So let's stay unassimilated, man. Do what we got to do. Anybody have any other questions? Definitely, if you can, please check out CordobaOrganics.com. I greatly appreciate it. I'm sorry for all of the technical difficulties in the beginning. Now that I think I started it over, I'll be able to extract the right place so everybody can see it. Yeah, definitely. Please also check out ADOT app. If you ever have any issues trying to upload or download or try to thing whatever, and it persists, just delete it and then reinstall it, and it should Apple don't automatically update it, so I gotta so I'm not part of the club in that way. So please definitely check those out. Definitely check out www.aseer if you haven't already. Also, like I said, man, just focus more on getting your individual piece of the pie together, so that way you got to worry about what these other niggas are trying to do. None of them care about anybody. What you saw in the Zelensky meeting is how they all talk to each other in real life. At least he's showing you how it is in real life, and everybody mad. He's trying to reduce the size of the government itself, and niggas got a problem. You trying to get niggas $5,000 a month for a year, niggas got a problem. This is how brainwashed people are, and the people with problems are the people who are losing money because of the money laundering. I'm just like, somebody needs to go to jail for treason at this point. You need to get on that. But I don't see the Democratic Party existing. in another 3-4 years, if they keep doing what they're doing now, it ain't gonna exist. He just appointed the chick who Kardashian got out of jail, who they was trying to kill on death row or whatever for unjust imprisonment. And he just made her the head of the pardon czar to get other people out of jail that's been put in there. Specifically so-called black people. And y'all got a problem. So it ain't him. It's y'all support anything that is against any type of progress, regardless of who it's coming from. They don't care. They rather see everybody die than for some people to actually get made right or made whole. And we've pushed the singularity to the point where we've literally made it happen. Where everything that we've ever talked about, that anybody ever told me I was wrong or crazy about, is the truth. It become to be true. But they can't be in my life to tell me, hey, you was right, so we don't talk. You know what I mean? That's how you know you're doing something right. So keep doing the right thing and not giving energy to shit that don't exist. Therefore, it cannot create mass and it cannot maintain substance. You know what I mean? Yeah, you got a bunch of criminals. You got a thief arguing with a murderer. Like, does it matter? You know what I'm saying? The eggs are still high. Yeah, but inflation coming down, which means eventually the price of the eggs going to come down. But again, you can't say nothing positive because then see you pro-Trump. No, I'm pro-progress. I'm pro-whatever's. I'm pro-progress without being progressive. I'm for the people, but I don't have to necessarily engage with them the way that you do in order to see something happen. You know? So anybody else? What do you think? I got stopped by the cop, bench warrant, and when he looked me up, he got spooked and said, I'm gonna get. That's good. But just make sure you find out what that is specifically and get it nipped in the bud so it don't keep popping up. Because that's a part of a strategy they call it death by 1,000 cuts. Where they just keep coming back with little shit. That's what they just did with Lil Baby. Exactly. Money ain't evil. None of that's evil. He said money is the root of all evil. So the root of all evil is what people want, which is money. But money could be salt. Money could be sex. Money could be whatever. But essentially that's true. Islam. I can definitely hear about it and see what we could do, inshallah. Anybody else? Cool. Again, thank you guys for putting up with the stop and the resets that they put us through this week. And like I said, next week we'll have more. But look into more what I was saying about the Saturnian thing, and you'll start to see a pattern in all of these dudes and all their little groups and all their little clubs and stuff. There'll always be something around to do that. And like I said, Saturn itself is not an evil concept. It's a concept representing the passage of time, but also the efficiency of how to use time to your advantage. That's why he has the sickle mowing down the wheat. AI works the same way. You see what I'm saying? But with AI, the less you give it, the better. You did use it as a utilitarian tool, but what they want to do is sign over the whole farm to it so that they could say, hey, see, we control the AI now. Nope, you'll never control it because you can't control your own nature. And your own nature is destroy yourself. So let's let them destroy themselves and then create a whole nother version of that. You know what I mean? For ourselves. You know what I mean? The way we're supposed to. Because again, we remember. Now when you see Christians and all of that, you ain't got to feel no way about it. That's why the prophet acknowledged Yeshua and all of that. Acknowledged all of the tribes, the clans, all of that. Because we're a part of all of that without being a part of it. Because as Moors now, in this understanding, in this incarnation, we have the the plethora of wisdom to be able to take the best parts of what happened, put it together, and then give that to the youth so they don't do it the same way. That's all we can really do, B. Because these people will fool you into believing that you're going to have your own nation and all this other type of shit without your own clan and your own army and your own this and then that. They setting you up. Like I said, these groups that just come out of nowhere, start bashing other people you never heard of, but then they using the same technology and the same information of the people that they bashing. Something wrong with them. That's agent behavior. So just watch out for that, man, and don't get caught up. Because they want to rule. These niggas just want to rule over people. Because they weak. Real leaders don't ask for leadership. They just do what they do. Weak people crave power. You know what I mean? But we already got it. We're the chosen. We got it. We did it. We don't gotta come back here no more for it. You could accept the good news and know, like, no, this is it for me. I'm good. After this, I'm going to the real thing. You understand? Because I done reconciled Jesus, I done reconciled Allah, I done reconciled Buddha, I done reconciled Confucius. All of the Platonic solids that y'all niggas made gods out of, I done surpassed all of them. So what that mean? Who God now? See what I'm saying? To them, it's the AI. So let it be that. But AI don't mean shit if you ain't got no computer. If you ain't got electricity, nigga, that shit don't mean nothing. So lights go out. Guess what? I can still write down shit. I can still use candles, nigga. I can still do everything I was supposed to do. I can still fish. I can still run through the garbage for food if I need to. You know what I mean? I don't need a robot for that. Islam, noble. Because again, God forbid all the lights in the world go out, the inner light within us probably come on. That's why they don't want that. They don't want to see you glowing in the street, nigga. You know how much radiation we done assimilated through these phones and shit? They don't want to see you really glowing in the street like that and being alive. What? That would give it away. Nah, keep the lights on. Keep these niggas thinking it's moving. Indeed, Mo, the original soul glow. Yeah. Yeah. All the technology go away. You go back to carrier pigeons and shit. You know what I mean? Throwing bottles in the letters in the ocean in a bottle and shit. Like, we find a way. You know what I mean? We done had a post office since the beginning of Babylon. Since probably before that. So yeah, Moors. Anybody else have any questions, just let me know. And hit me up, houseofl@hotmail.com. And I appreciate you. Islam.